In this video, I'll be sharing the work of a gentleman named Trey Smith. If you've never heard of him, he's been around for a long time. He's a Bible scholar. I'll share his link in the description.
I'm Trey Smith of God in a Nutshell. Let me welcome you to Noah, the New Evidence. I'll write down here Sumer and Akkad, both of these following the fertile ground. This is the fertile crescent by the Tigris and Euphrates rivers right here. Many of the sites that archaeologists believe are some of the oldest sites, like Göbekli Tepe, are going to be right up in here, heading towards where the mountains of Ararat, where it's recorded on the Epic of Gilgamesh, as well as a variety of other ancient documents where the boat landed, including, of course, the pages of Genesis. Right next to those mountains also, and coincidentally, is where the oldest winery in the world has been discovered, where, coincidentally, that Drupanar formation, the exact size and measurements, by the way, of which recorded in the biblical pages of Genesis as being the exact length and width of Noah's Ark, is found. Now, I don't want to take a position on whether that Drupanar site is Noah's Ark. I believe more research needs to be done. Many believe that that site is in fact the biblical Noah's Ark. And I take the site quite seriously. But additionally, there are many who make a great case that the boat is on top of Greater Ararat and a few other sites. The search continues, but in this particular video, without further ado, we'd like to talk to Andrew Jones of Discovered Media, who has been working and doing scans of the Drupanar site. Without further ado, here's Andrew Jones. So Andrew, kind of tell me, what's the name of this site that's behind you?
Yeah, so we're standing here near the village of Uzungeli, eastern Turkey. And right behind me is this boat-shaped formation that is known as the Drupanar Ark site.
Now, the Drupanar site is named after a Turkish pilot. This is an artist's recreation. Right here you can see the Drupanar formation. They put Noah's Ark inside of it. This formation was originally part of a mud flow, so it's believed that this formation and the Ark, if that's what it be, were originally on top of, or near the top of, this ridge up here called Judgment Mountain or Doomsday Mountain. This right here is the original photograph taken by Ilhan Drupanar in 1959. They were doing patrols, so the Turkish army or they were doing air patrols, and these are the photographs that he took, which got national attention. You can see that it clearly has the shape of some kind of a vessel. Now, there are many that will claim that there are formations like this all over the place. I'm sorry, I have looked, and so have others, and there simply aren't. There is not another like this to be found. This is an image of what that formation looks like today, and on this side I have some imagery of ground scans that have been done by the folks over at Noah's Ark Scans. By the way, all of these scans that I'm going to show you can be found at that website, noahsarkscans.com, I believe, or at Discovered Media, where Andrew Jones is out there. They've actually built an entirely new tourist center. It should be noted that the Turkish government officially declares this site, the Drupanar site, as being Noah's Ark. They recognize it as Noah's Ark. These scans come from 7 meters deep, and what we're looking at on the screen here is they're beginning to find what many feel are grid-like patterns, although it's unknown whether it's naturally formed in some grid-like patterns underground or if it's man-made. It is being requested by Noah's Ark Scans, Andrew Jones, and others to do core drilling would be the next step to determine what's under there. Some of the audio here and there in this interview with Andrew Jones is a touch rough in spots, but is still pretty good for the remote location that he's at. Andrew also does tours. The real Mount Sinai, the Red Sea, where the Red Sea crossing was, and of course the the Drupanar site at Discovered Media. Andrew, tell me some of the reasons why. We can clearly see it shaped like a boat. Tell me some of the reasons why that you know that it might be the ark.
Yeah, so in the Bible, Moses, who we believe wrote the book of Genesis, gave some descriptions about, number one, how the ark looked, the measurements for the boat, and where it landed after the flood. And so if you look at those criteria, this site matches. So let's go through the list. Number one, in Genesis chapter 8, verse 4, Moses talks about how the ark landed in the mountains of Ararat.
Now, when it reads the mountains of Ararat, or the mountains of Urartu, that's really an entire mountain range. But the mountains, the largest mountains would be, Greater Ararat, seen right here, and Lesser or Little Ararat. The twin peaks of Ararat, they can be seen for many, many miles in any direction around them. And in fact, these sites where this particular formation would be within the kingdom of Urartu. In fact, the area where this formation is called the Land of the Eight, or the Place of the Eight. That's what the locals have called it for literally thousands of years.
Yeah, so in ancient times, when they translated some of these writings, this area was called Armenia. So you see like the English translation for like Josephus and the Jewish historian who lived just after the time of Christ. He talks about the ark being still seen in his day in the mountains of Armenia. So this is the same area. Now the current international borders, which are defined right now, shows that this site, yes, we're in Turkey, and the mountains of Ararat, most of them are in Turkey. The famous Mount Ararat and its lesser peak, the whole thing is in Turkey.
So that area, where that formation, that Drupanar formation, where Andrew Jones is literally standing at as I do the interview, that's on the border of Turkey and Armenia is where that is. Now he referenced Flavius Josephus, or Josephus. Josephus was a historian, a Jewish historian, who wrote famously about a lot of subjects, but particularly in this instance about the location of Noah's Ark. And this is what Josephus wrote. Now he said, now of all the writers of barbarian histories, they make mention of this flood, the global flood, and of this ark. Now what he means by barbarian histories, in my view, I think, well, might be, for example, the Atrahasis tablet. Atrahasis is a name for Noah. Noah is Atrahasis on the Atrahasis tablet. The name Atrahasis means exceedingly wise one, or under some translations, one with exceedingly long life. Or, down here, the Eridogenesis, where Noah is the legendary Sumerian king who built a boat to escape the deluge. Noah's, of course, covered also on the Sumerian Kings list, or the Great Flood is covered on the Sumerian Kings list. More than this, you would have, of course, the writings of, famously, the writings of the great king Gilgamesh. Now, Gilgamesh takes, and also, right here I would point out the Babylonian Ark tablet. So on this tablet, it's covering, they wrote about the global flood and Noah all the time. On this tablet, we're writing about the animals coming on board 2 by 2. However, probably no ancient tablet gives us more, many of them give us a lot of details. The Atrahasis tablet certainly does. The Atrahasis tablet will tie you right into Gilgamesh, who gives you a wealth of details about the location of that ark. For example, you're being told it's between 2 peaks. And then it's right next to a ridge, or a mountain of judgment, a wall of judgment, or a doomsday mountain is what Gilgamesh is telling you on his stone where he went and visited Noah. We go through this heavily. That actually ties into the history of this place that we've been going through on the films Vol. 1 and 2. So Nimrod is clearly on these stones expecting to get respectful replies. But instead, he's getting replies that are like, what does any of this got to do with me? Didn't we throw your the sun god of earth. Didn't we throw him out of here shamefully? And by the way, there's indications on some of the other stones from the pagan side of it that the reason he might have been thrown out of there, couldn't keep his hands off of other people's kids. And he's writing the stones all the way from down here in Uruk, basically down here by Eridu, all the way up to the Ararat Mountains, and having to wait for the replies for these messages. And he continues, may the people marvel admiringly, and may Utu, now commonly I believe and can make a strong case for you that Utu probably is Noah's rebellious son Ham. This is where the division of the sons happens, is right after the flood. And you literally see it in the artifacts. You begin to see some pagan artifacts emerge that are glorifying Tammuz, the devil, the goat, and other artifacts, and all sorts of immorality of different forms and human sacrifice. And on the other end of it, you have people up there in the mountains that are even referred to on some of these later stones as the righteous ones that are up there. In fact, there are some legends that come right off of their pagan rocks that I find them particularly telling, which we delve into in the right here in the Vav Part 1 and Part 2, which are available for streaming over on God in a Nutshell. We delve into, so here's Utu right here, and I'm suggesting to you very, very heavily the possibility that that's Noah's rebellious son Ham being told, son, we've had enough of you. Go ahead and pack your stuff and get out. Here's a cylinder seal where you have Utu, our first witch that would start the Babylonian Empire, the practices of Babylon. Wherever he's coming from, he's getting thrown out from between two mountain peaks. And in fact, it's on those very legends that we discuss in these, where it's referring to a set of righteous people that live up there in those mountains, place that old Utu was thrown from. May Utu, Ham, witness it in joy in the place of the Dumazid. Dumazid is another word for what we would later today call Tammuz. So may Tammuz witness Noah bring me his holy stones, possibly stones used on the boat, maybe stones used from an altar Noah had, but whatever it was up there that they viewed as holy, that they now want to usurp, like the staff of Moses, and make it something demonic, and he wants to use it in the building of his tower. That's how I'm interpreting exactly what's being stated on this document, and that the Dumazid will be thrilled and leap with joy where the goats and lambs are numerous. Notice the biblical language embedded right in these documents. The people of Arata, let's just use the word Noah, the people of Noah shall run around for Nimrod. It's in Nana. Notice in Nana back here, she's holding a lion by the nose. She's got it captive. She looks like the modern day pop star goddess of her age. She's got her little leggy kicked out there. She is the seductress of the ancient world, the first one. Right there at that Tower of Babel, in the place where the doom is at Tammuz, where the goats and the lambs are numerous, the people of Noah shall run around for you, Nimrod. They shall run around for you as you whip them, the people of Noah shall. Like mountain sheep, notice the biblical language, in the fields of Tammuz, the Dumazid. That's what's being stated right on these rocks. I know it's almost too offensive to believe, isn't it? Rise like the sun, the birth of the sun gods, over my holy breast. You are the jewel of my throat, Nimrod. Praise be to you in Merkur, son in the line of Utu. That's what's being stated. This is literally what's being written. He's writing this to Noah, who's replying to him basically, what has this got to do with me? Get your life straight, kid. That's what's being recorded in the best that a pagan could on these pagan stones. Now, I'd like to take us for just a moment back over to where this sort of division happens amongst the sons. And right after the flood, basically in Genesis 8, because as we've commonly covered in these films, so Noah released two different birds, a raven and a dove. And the occult systems, like the Apkello with the bird heads that you find in Babylon and ancient Sumer and Akkad, and spread all across the globe, in truth. So those pagan systems favored the raven, the falcon, the crow. The biblical text favors the dove, just like the Spirit of God rested upon Jesus like a dove. Well, the raven was the workless bird, if you remember, and so it just went to and fro in the air. That's what is told to you that the raven did. The bird that the pagans favored. Just as in the book of Job, when Satan went before the Lord says, "Where have you come from?" And he said, "I've gone to and fro," just like the raven, the worthless bird that we read about in Genesis that Noah released. Pagans, they favor the raven. Christians, they favor the dove. Genesis 8, the number of new beginnings. Notice the numbers here. On the 17th day, notice the numbers. 17th day of the 7th month, the ark came to rest in the mountains of Ararat. Those are two mountains right out there where Andrew is. And that applies whether the boat is on top of the mountain, whether it's right there at the Drupadar site where Andrew is standing, or whether it's somewhere else. On the 17th day of the 7th month, the ark came to rest in the mountains of Ararat, your R2. And the waters continued to recede until the 10th month. And on the first day of the 10th month, the tops of the mountains began to become visible. And after 40 days, Noah opened the window he had made in the ark, and he sent out a raven. But it went to and fro, back and forth, until the waters had dried up from the earth. Then, verse 8, the number of new beginning down there, Noah sent out a dove. Now, if I come back over to Genesis 8 for just a minute, number 8, that's the number of new beginnings. That's literally the chapter where Noah releases the raven. That's the bird that the pagans favor, and the dove, the bird that the Christians would, the symbol of the dove. Well, in Genesis 8, where he releases the raven and the dove, and I look over at the two peaks of Ararat. In fact, right out there where that Drupadar site is, just where Andrew is standing, literally a stone's throw from where Andrew is standing, we find the Kor Gakon Maz, if I pronounce that properly, village. Where, and remember, it was in Genesis 8 where the crow, the raven, the falcon, and the dove were both released. Well, that village, its name means the raven won't land. In fact, if one was talking about the division of the two sons, the lineage that would go through Ham, leading to Nimrod, Babylon, all of it, all the cult today, or the lineage coming through over here through Shem that would ultimately lead to Israel and would lead to Jesus Christ. Well, these are two different paths. And even at the start of that, what we read in Yasher, what we read in Genesis is that Noah put a curse on Ham's son Canaan, and that Ham kept trying to wiggle up inside of the tent. In the book of Yasher, we read that Ham stole these garments from Noah that had come all the way down from Adam. He longed to steal something. He believed it was a holy item, a holy object. In fact, this is what the occult doesn't do sometimes, but they do all the time. They take objects of God and they turn them into occult objects. So whether you have stones that look like this hag stone here, or this one here, or ones that are worn around the witch's necklace, or ancient dolmens, or giant megaliths that would later arise, or perhaps stones that were part of Noah's altar. When he got off of the boat, he made a sacrifice unto the Lord, and the occult, Nimrod's empire, which beginning with Ham, would try to usurp and try to twist that and turn these into occult items. This is literally what is being written on those little rocks, that Nimrod wants Noah and the people of Noah to come down. He wants to use items that were from Noah, that were passed down from the lineage of Adam. This is what I'm reading. Or items that just belong to Noah, that he viewed as holy items. And the cherry on top of his giant tower, he's wanting Noah to come and bow down to him, pay homage to him, and use the items from his lineage, from his ancestor, and the worship of God himself to build a pagan tower to worship Satan, is what he's wanting. And in fact, some of these pagan stones are extraordinarily telling. But the book of Enoch it's a book that I myself and the God in the Nutshell project, as well as men that have worked on putting this together, including Jacob Tyler, whose web handle has always been Confound the Idols. But the book of Enoch, what I personally believe about, I believe it's the real McCoy. It is what it states that it is. A lot of people will disagree with me on that. I can make a solid case for that, and I've been actually walking through each section of it and doing commentaries on it to break it down in an easy to understand way. If in fact the book of Enoch is genuine, as I believe that it is, then these would be the words of the seventh from Adam, and they would have been on scrolls that would have come, they would have been prized possessions of Noah that would have been on board that very ship that we're looking at now, or recreation of that ship that we're looking at now. And these words would be the best record that you have in the entire world of what that pre-flood world was like. It covers the Nephilim, it covers the giants, it covers all of the things that would have been important to Noah and Enoch. That's what the book is, and that's what it purports to be. This right here on the screen behind me, this is how the book of Enoch starts. Mind you, it's just the first couple of paragraphs from Enoch 1:1, and it states this: Enoch, these are the words of the blessing of Enoch, wherewith he blessed the elect and righteous. Those are two different groups, perhaps Israel and the church. I'm going to lay that in your hands, but that's what he states. That's how he starts. These are the words of the blessing of Enoch, wherewith he blessed the elect and righteous, two specific groups that follow you all through the book of Enoch. The elect and righteous, who will be living in the day of tribulation. They're going to be living in this time of tribulation, like Jacob's time of trouble, the time of the end, time of tribulation, when the wicked and the godless are to be removed. And I, Enoch, a righteous man, notice how he affiliates himself with that second group. I, Enoch, a righteous man. That's a bold statement. And I, Enoch, took up my parable. He referred to his own life as a parable. And I, Enoch, was a righteous man. So he affiliates himself with that second group, the righteous, whose eyes were opened by a vision of the Holy One, which the angels, this is a story about angels, which the angels showed unto me, and from them, these angels, I heard everything, and I understood as I saw. But not for my generation, not for Enoch's generation. So the words he's writing are meant to be on that ship. And these words pop up just about the time that the Mashiach appears each time. These words were meant to make it to your hands, according to these very texts in the first two paragraphs. But not for my generation, but for a remote one, perhaps your generation, which is for to come, the last generation of this age. And concerning the elect, well, wait a second, that's that first group, the elect and righteous. Concerning the elect, Israel, I wrote, and I took up my parable, my story. Enoch viewed his life in this place as a parable. In other words, what he's stating is the place that those angels come from, both the good ones and the dark ones, is you're living in a test, is what he's stating. That place that they come from, the place behind this place, is more real than this place. He believed his life was a story, a parable. And I took up my parable concerning them. I don't care who you are. The book of Enoch It's a cool book. As someone that studies history or someone that's a biblical scholar, whether you believed in the book or not, it's certainly a book that you'd like to familiarize yourself with.